reinvented myself many, many times. And I really believe in constantly evolving. You are the poster person for reinventing yourself, I think. And I think we have to give ourselves permission many times in order to do that. What have you learned about transformation, and what gives you the courage to keep evolving into new versions of yourself?
Yeah, I have transformed many times, not intentionally, but I think it's part of life's journey. And I think
Yeah.
my current boss has a saying, and I think he got it from George Adair. George Adair's famous quote is, "Everything that you want is on the other side of fear." And my boss sort
Oh,
of translated that and he uses it in his fitness classes sometimes to motivate people. And he'll say, "The magic happens on the other side of the stuff that you don't want to do." Well,
mm,
actually, both of those are absolutely spot on, because the stuff that we find difficult, the stuff we're scared of, the stuff that we don't want to do, we have to overcome that in order to move, in order to
absolutely.
transform and develop. And when I think back, like moving from England to China, I remember I packed my house up, I gave most of my belongings away or I sold them. And I headed off to China with 2 suitcases and no real plan. I knew that I wanted to live there. I knew I wanted to work and I knew I
Hmm.
wanted to travel. That was my plan. I had no idea how long I was going for. If I would have known that COVID was going to break out, I think I'd have gone 5 years sooner. But anyway, so
Yeah.
was that scary? Yes.
Mm.
But I didn't focus on the fear. I focused on
See?
what I really wanted to achieve. And if I would have been frozen in the fear, I would have never done it. So we have to put that fear out of the way, accept it, acknowledge it, but we still have to keep going, don't we? Otherwise we remain stuck. And that is a choice. That's something
It
else
is
I've
a
learned.
choice.
It's a choice. None of us are rooted to the spot. We've all got choice. That choice might not be nice, and it might not be a welcome choice. It might be hard to make, but it's a choice.
Yeah.
And so evolving is
And
something
I
that we
don't
can
think a lot
do.
of us realize or see that choice.
Mm,
We don't, a lot of people really don't see themselves being able to go through the fear, get
mm,
to the other side, because success or whatever you really want is really on the other side. And,
yeah,
fear is a lie. Most of the things that are standing in between us and whatever we want to achieve isn't really even going to happen.
no,
And
no.
we have to allow ourselves to just forge through no matter what. But I mean, it is really hard because it is a big block, and it's being able to push through that mountain or whatever it is that's standing between us and wherever we want to be, and just allow ourselves to succeed.
Yeah, it's having the courage, isn't it? Being
It,
brave,
yes.
taking that leap.
Yep,
Yeah.
I like those words. From that crazy life that you led before, a couple of different times, it sounds like, to who you are today, because you are a much more grounded person. How different are you today from that person that had to pause for that 5 months?
Oh, completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm much calmer. I'm much
Okay.
more laid back. Um, Incredibly flexible. I'm organized in a flexible kind of a way. So I'm still organized,
Oh, I
but
like that.
to the to the outside person looking into my life, it might look a bit chaotic. Whereas in the past, it would have looked very organized and disciplined. I'm still organized and disciplined, but I am a lot more laid back with it. Um,
Okay.
I tend to be late for a lot of things nowadays, to be honest. And
You
I'm not
know,
very late, but maybe 5 minutes late. And yeah,
okay. Well, you're
yeah,
busy just needing that extra 5 minutes to take care of yourself.
yeah, Yeah, and
There you go.
I don't mind about that now, and I will tell people. In fact, we were talking about pronouns the other day and how people are using pronouns, and I said mine are almost there. I identify as late. My pronouns are almost there,
That's awesome.
and
That's
that does
awesome.
describe me.
Oh, I love
But
that.
I think alongside all that, I've grown in confidence a lot. I'm very happy and comfortable in my own skin
That's
and
great.
with who I am. Whereas in the past that wasn't always the case. And I think it really made me think a few weeks ago I covered an aqua class and so I was there on the side of the pool doing my thing and motivating everyone and shouting and getting on. And in the class there was a lady who had come to say hi at the beginning, and I haven't seen her for years, and she's my friend who I went to school with. It's her mum, and I haven't seen my friend for years, and I haven't seen her mum for years. So we were reminiscing a little bit, and then she got in the pool, and I started the class. And partway through the class, I'm like, "Come on, everybody, how are we feeling?" And she said, "Zoe, you used to be so quiet and shy and a nice person, and now you're
What
just
happened?
bullying me."
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
And it really made me laugh because I thought, yeah, I am completely different now to how I would have been when she knew me back at school. Yeah.
Well, a beautiful transformation. So, anything surprise you about your journey learning about yourself?
Phew, everything. Yeah. I love seeing how things unfold. I love seeing the magic of the universe. I love seeing the miracles and the synchronicities and things that life throws at us. That I believe there's no such thing as a coincidence. I believe that
Oh,
everybody and everything that
100%.
happens is for a reason. And that reason might be
Yep.
a lesson where we learn something, or it could be a blessing where you're feeling desperate about something and then suddenly something happens and it changes it all. And I am always surprised by life, and I embrace those surprises. I look forward to see like where things go. And I am a really big
It's,
believer in trying things and seeing what happens.
I love that. Yeah, I believe in exposure for my kids. I mean, it's
Mm,
just being exposed to everything and being open. I mean,
yeah.
that's really important. Now, talk about being open about different things. You now offer a powerful range of modalities. You have so much experience. You offer the QHHT, which you talked about, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, which
Yeah.
we will talk about these things, Reiki, yoga, sound therapy, coaching, even body combat, which I found really interesting. How do you determine what someone needs, and how do you help people recognize where they're out of balance, either mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Because I learned a long time ago that you can't force your help on other people. So you can easily
Okay.
look at someone else's life and say, "Oh, you should be doing this, you should try that."
Right.
But we all know that when people do that for us, we often don't listen. We have to figure that out for ourselves. So really early
Sure.
on in my coaching,
Yeah.
I realized even though I thought I knew what people needed, then that wasn't the approach that I should be taking. So I focus a lot on asking questions. I am nosy and I ask lots of questions, and I really love getting to know my clients, whether that's in
Mm.
the gym doing exercise rehab or whether it's someone who comes for Reiki and then we get chatting and look at other things that'll help in their life. So I ask a lot of questions. And it does depend a lot on the scenario. I recently had a chap come to me who'd lost mobility due to a spinal injury.
Oh,
So I was
okay.
sort of trying to understand what it was that he was wanting to achieve, and I'm making suggestions to him about what we could do. And everything that I suggested, he came up with a negative. Oh, well, no, that won't work because, or, oh, well, I tried that and that didn't work. And oh, no, I'm not so sure about that. So this had gone on for about 5 or 10 minutes. And in the end, I put my clipboard down and sat back in my chair and I just went, "So what is it you do want? Why are you here?" And I can come across as blunt and I can be blunt and direct sometimes. So he looked at me and sort of stopped and he thought for a minute and then he answered. And then we carried on from there. So he'd been coming to the gym for a number of weeks and he'd made some really good progress. And I commented on his progress one day and I said, wow, look how far you've come. Well done with this. And he said, well, it's all you. And I said, it's not all me. I said, it's all down to you. You're the one who's put the work in. He went,
Sure.
no, it's all you, Zoe. And I said, how is it me? And he said, well, you asked me that question when we first met and I'd forgotten about this. And I said, well, which question was that? And he said, you just stopped and looked at me and went, well, what is it you do want? And he said, I hadn't actually thought about that. And he said, I realized what you meant and it made me think. And he said, I went home after that and I was thinking, what do I actually
Wow.
want? And so sometimes it's about asking the right question, which
Mm.
sometimes I get right and sometimes I don't. But then from there, working with that person to put things in place. So that chap as well was very closed to alternative therapies when I first met him. I
Mm.
asked him in that first meeting, are you open to alternative therapies? Because that's what I will usually say to people to quickly determine whether or not it's something they would be willing to consider. And his response was pretty much no. And so I moved on to my next question and just
Sure.
dismissed that. And then he mentioned to me about somebody that he knew who was a Reiki master. And he was sort of laughing about it and saying, I don't think that, what a load of rubbish. And I said, oh, a Reiki master. Yes, I'm a Reiki master. And he went, oh. And I said, but don't worry. I said, I won't mention it with you because I can see that it's not for you. And then because he'd got to know me a little bit by that point, then he was intrigued because his sort of perception of me and how we'd worked together. But then he's realizing that I'm doing other things as well, and he's suddenly intrigued. And now he's having Reiki, and it's making a really big difference to his life. So it can be a journey working with other people, and I've really realized it has to be very step by step, and it has to be led by them. And I'm just there to make suggestions, ask questions, get them thinking.
Sure. Because it really is about them getting to know themselves.
It is, yeah, and they've got
You're
to
just,
want to, yeah,
yeah, helping them help themselves.
exactly, yeah.
But I have a few questions about what exactly some of these things are
Uh-huh.
because I have no idea what QHHT is and how it supports deep healing. So, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Because it's vast. So I'll give a sort of
Okay.
in a
For
nutshell.
for the lay person who has no clue what it
Yeah.
is.
So it was developed by the late Dolores Cannon, who was an American lady, and she worked on the technique over a 40-year career and sort of found it by accident working with hypnotherapy, and then eventually it evolved into what we now know and love as QHHT. And so it's a form of hypnotherapy where you
Mm.
take the person back in time, regress them back to wherever their higher self or subconscious takes them. Now, that might be a
Mm.
past life, or it might be earlier in their current life. It'll be somewhere in time that they that will be directly relevant to whatever issues going on in their life now. So it's a complex yet simple at the same time process. Um, so I've had it done on me because when I was training to become a practitioner, a requirement is that you have it done on you so that because if you've not had
Oh,
that experience, you can't understand it and how it
sure.
might play out for other people. So in my session, I was taken back to a past life. And in that past life, I was able to describe what was going on and why and how I was feeling. And we went right through that past life up to the point of death and then moved into what happens after death. So even if somebody's experienced something truly horrific, say like being burnt at the stake, or if they drowned, or something horrific, they don't feel that. So you can take them through the experience without them feeling any of that. So it's all safe. But it can help resolve any
Okay.
historical unresolved trauma. It can help you understand any emotional pain that you're dealing with or physical pain. And
Okay.
sometimes when we've got physical health conditions in this life, sometimes that can be linked with a past life. Sometimes it can be something that our higher self or our soul has chosen for us to experience in this life, and we just have to go through that because it's one of our lessons.
Hmm.
So then once you've gone through your past life safely, we will then meet with the subconscious, and we will, at that point, you can ask the subconscious any questions you want the answers to. So I sat down before my session and I think I had two A4 sides of questions. You can ask about anything. You can ask about anything
Wow.
that's happened in your life. You can ask tough questions you're going through at the time, all sorts about your life. And you get the answers. And during that same segment of the healing, if you have any physical ailments that you would like to understand why you've got them or how you can work through them, you can also ask for healing. And if it's appropriate for that condition to be healed, then the subconscious will step in and heal the body. So, as a practitioner, um, I have done a number of sessions where people have had healing, but there's always one that sticks in my mind, and it was for a gentleman who had had a spinal injury. He'd had several spinal operations, and he had QHHT with me. And during the healing part, we asked for healing for his spine, and I could see his body moving independently. I wasn't touching him. I don't need to touch during QHHT. And his body was just moving independently, twitching and moving, and his spine was realigning and healing. And at the end of that session, over the next couple of weeks, the more you get a recording of your session and the more you listen to it before you fall asleep, the more healing comes through because you're in that deeply relaxed state. And whilst you're having the hypnotherapy, you're in a deeply relaxed state. So when you're in that deep state of relaxation, that is when the body can heal itself. And he was able to go back to playing football with his son, which he'd never done for years.
What?
And he had been a semi-professional boxer before he'd had his injury. He went back and had another semi-professional fight after that. And he'd been in agony for years, and yet he was able to get healing. And I know when
What?
I had mine, I'd asked for healing on my spine because I'd been having low back problems, and I had a similar experience where my body just, I could feel it. I could feel my body moving as I was lying there because you're in a deeply relaxed state, but you're still aware of what's going on around you. It's an amazing
That's
experience.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't heal everything. So for example, my eyesight is terrible. I've got really long eyesight and I'd asked for healing on my eyes as well. That didn't come through, which means for me, that's obviously before I came into this life, that's something that my soul had chosen for me. So I'm not meant to have good eyesight in this life, but yet my spine problems were resolved. So yeah, it is amazing.
Wow. Could you talk a little bit about Reiki? Because I personally, I know a little bit about it, but for our listeners, just explain it a little bit, please.
So Reiki is a Japanese form of healing. Well, it comes from Japan, and it's working with the universal life force energy, which is the energy that we've all got inside us, and that we all share, and it's what links us all with the universe. That energy has no beginning and no end. It changes form and changes shape. And so with Reiki, I work as a channel. I work between your energy and the energy from the universe, and I am just a channel to channel healing energy to your body. So I work over the body in the energy field. I occasionally I'll put my hands on the body, but not very often. I usually work above the energy field or on the aura. And I am just channeling energy to the body now. I can sense through my hands as I'm doing that where healing is needed. And I can sense where there's blockages in people's energy. And Reiki just works to it puts you into that deeply relaxed state where your body can heal itself. And then it's just working with that energy to realign it, to remove any blocks, to balance your energy. I work over the chakras. We've got 7 main chakra points down our body from the crown of our head to the tip of our tailbone. I'll work over those points, but I'll also work on other areas of the body as well. And I've had some amazing experiences. Reiki works on a body, mind, and soul level. So the healing goes wherever your higher self determines you need it. So somebody might come to me with really bad pain in their knee, but they've also been going through a heavily emotional time. And so the healing will go purely to their emotions, which can be very subtle and not the knee. And then they'll say to me, oh, it didn't work. And I have to then coax out of them, like, what else is going on? Where else might it have gone? Have you been feeling any differently in yourself? And then they'll say, oh, well, I've been feeling a bit calmer. Oh, well, there we go. So sometimes it can be very subtle and you have to take a step back and go, hang on a minute. The healing's gone somewhere because it always does. So where has it gone? And then so if somebody is going through an emotional, stressful time and they get that healing there, then if they come back for more Reiki, then it may well then go to the painful knee or wherever else it's needed. So it's body, mind, and soul, and you don't get to choose, and I don't get to choose where that goes, but your higher self does. But then on the other hand, I've had clients who have come to me and can't walk without a stick. And after a few sessions of Reiki, they're walking without a stick and thinking of going back to ballroom dancing. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's like magic to me, and I never get sick of it. I just love to see how it works.
Oh my gosh. So in a way, I mean, even though your healthcare system has turned into what it is and people are going to alternative ways of healing, it seems like, that's a good thing.
I think so. I think we've all got the power within us to heal and to heal each other. This isn't a special skill I've got that no one else has got. I've just tapped into understanding energy healing and now I'm doing it. And we've all got that ability. We've been born with that ability, but we're not told about it and we're not taught how to use it. And we've all forgotten about it as a race. We've forgotten about it. And I think if we could all just remember that and tap into it, and if we were all doing it, how amazing would life be? We wouldn't need
It would be.
some of the pharmaceuticals and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah, it would definitely be different. And I think that those things are, well, yeah, I think that a lot of those medicines are killing us. So,
So do I. So do I. Yeah. They're not
so,
designed. I did read something the other day about one of the large pharmaceutical companies and how they'd been around for a certain amount of time. And in that time, they've hardly healed anyone. And I thought, yeah, they're not designed to heal. They've put all that investment into research and the latest technology, and yet actually people are still sick.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah. I think the ancient civilizations understood all this. They used to use
I
it,
do
the
too.
ancient Egyptians, the Mayans, so many of them. And it's got lost in time, but it's got lost for a reason. It's been hidden from us for a reason, so that we're more easily controlled because we've got all this ability. And it's important we get it back.
I really want to know this. What is body combat?
It's an exercise class. It's part of the Les Mills classes. It's one of their programs. It's been really popular. It's been around for a long time, and I've been instructing body combat classes for a few years now. So it's all set to music and it's using different combat moves. So you might be
Oh,
punching or all different types of punches and then kicks, and it's all threaded together through choreography. And
hmm.
there's usually about 10 tracks in an hour's class, and you'll cover all the different types of martial art within a class. And it's intense. You can take it down to your level. But no matter what your level is, if you're working hard in class, you are sweating.
Is it like
So
Zumba?
kind of in that it's a cardio class and you'll work hard and sweat. Yeah.
Well, I used to work out all the time. I do treadmill and things like that. I am constantly moving. But that is something that I'm really interested in doing is high intensive, either dance or some kind of an exercise like that. So I really believe in that. That's because, I mean, you have to keep moving. You have to.
Absolutely. Use it or lose it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. What do you do as a life coach?
As a life coach, my life coaching kind of threads together all of the above in a way. So
Okay.
it may be that somebody wants to set some goals and make a plan for the future, but they're not really sure how to set the goals, or they're not sure how to work towards them, or they need someone to keep them accountable. So it might be that's my role there. Or it might be that to improve their lifestyle and put some measures in place to improve their health or fitness, and we'll work through techniques around that. Or it could be relationship issues, or
Oh,
career issues, or anything really that's part of life. So it's vast, and it's
yeah.
giving different strategies, techniques, and helping them unpick any blockages they may have, and helping them think through the consequences of not doing something and realizing they've got a choice and whether they choose to make that change and how. So it can be quite powerful. It's an opportunity for someone to take a step back, gain that perspective in order to then step forward. It can be really interesting. And I'm starting to work with more young people. I think had an
Oh,
impact on our young
mm,
people. They they were going through COVID in their formative years, whereas it was hard enough for us as adults to go through those changes, but
yeah.
for children to go through them, that's had lasting effects on a lot of our young people. And so I've been working with some young people looking at coping strategies,
Mm,
breathing techniques,
mm.
um, helping them realize they have choices and what those choices look like. And um, that's been quite interesting as well.
Do you think that we underestimate how connected our emotional health is to our physical well-being? And how do you guide clients through that connection in your practice?
I think we do underestimate that massively, because the breath is one of our biggest links in our body. Our breath links us directly with our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system in our body that calms us. So when we're at stress, or we're feeling there's an emergency or something like that, we're in our fight or flight
Okay.
sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Cortisol levels are high, we're ready to go. But we're only designed to be in that space for very short periods to deal with those emergencies. However, the pace of modern life means that more and more people are in that heightened zone with raised cortisol levels for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And unless you're aware,
Mm,
and unless you're thinking about how to lower those cortisol levels again, then it can actually have lasting effects. It can be responsible for heart conditions, diabetes, all
mm.
sorts of different physical conditions. And it's really simple to employ some very simple breathing techniques. And the breath connects us straight away with that parasympathetic nervous system, which reduces those cortisol levels back down, make us feel calm, makes us feel peaceful, gives us our clarity and our focus and our vision back, which we lose when we're up here all the time because we're feeling overwhelmed, we're on edge, and we
Sure.
can't select. So we massively underestimate that as a nation, as a world, in modern life. Technology is great. Technology is amazing. It's made all sorts of changes to our lives for the better, but it's also made a lot of changes to our lives that have not been for the best. And I think we have to learn how to use technology better, how to regain
Mm,
a balance and a pace of life. And so, yeah, breathwork techniques are something I use with a lot of my clients, whether that's through yoga. I've introduced it into some of my exercise classes in the cool down section. Um, I I try and educate my clients using breath work in the gym. Again, I've had real success working with some of my younger clients, introducing breath work techniques to them, and explaining why. Because if you just say to people it'll calm you down, sometimes they're like, nah, yeah, I don't see how that's going to help. But when you
Yeah.
explain the science behind it, them to do it with you, they're like, oh yeah, actually, I do feel calm now. And it's so powerful.
And so these things can actually lower cortisol
Yeah,
without having to take some of these prescribed medications to lower
yeah,
cortisol.
yeah. If you're doing breath work, in the moment when you're feeling anxious or at night if you can't settle, and if you just follow a few simple breath work techniques, one of my favorite is I just shut my eyes and I'll breathe in to the count of 3, out to the count of 3. Now that means that I'm having to focus on my breath and I'm counting. So whilst I'm focusing on my breath and I'm counting, I'm not able to do anything else. I'm not able to think about what it was that was stressing me out the second before or any of those things. So breathe in for 3, out for 3. Do that for 3 or 4 rounds. And then I'll breathe in for 3, out for 4. So I'm slowly lengthening that
Oh,
exhale. And I'll do that for 3 or 4 rounds. And then I breathe in for 3, out for 5. Now I've really lengthened that exhale. And I'll sit with that until I start to feel peaceful. And I just sit and count. And then I'll bring it back down 3 and 4. And then I bring it back down 3 and 3. And by the time I've done that, and it might only take 2 minutes, by the time I've done that, whatever it was that was stressing me out a minute before I've forgotten, I'm
hmm.
feeling calm and I'm ready to go again.
Wow. That's powerful.
Massively.
I've got 2 kids who went through a lot of trauma before I adopted them, and their cortisol levels are high. So that's really interesting. I am definitely going to look into that with them, do that with them.
Yeah, definitely. And there's loads of different exercises, and some will appeal to people, to individuals more than others. So it's worth trying different ones until you find one that works for them. But I think the practice of doing it, the calmness that they will feel as they do it and after, it just really opens your eyes to a simple technique that can really help.
Well, that's one thing possibly for someone who's brand new to things like energy healing and yoga. Where do you suggest they start? I mean, the breath work or anywhere else?
Breathwork's a really good place to start. Um, People struggle with meditation at first, because usually usually when we need meditation in the moment, it's when our head is so busy and full of chatter, and that
Yeah.
can be when it's hard to meditate. I find that breath work is really good because if you're counting in the way that I was just talking about, for example, then you can only focus on counting and breath. So you've got one single point of focus, which is what helps with calming the mind. So breath work's a really good way to start. Sometimes when you've practiced breath work a little bit, you can then move into meditation, and breath work is a good way into meditation because you've calmed yourself, then you can meditate. Yoga can help some people if they
Mm.
some of us have got a lot of energy and can't sit still, and just sitting down to do breath work is hard in itself. So yoga does the same thing, but you're moving. So
Okay.
you're moving into a pose and you might inhale one way, exhale down, whatever that pose is. But again, you're focusing on the movement, the body, and the breath. And so it's a single point of focus again. And then another one that I like is the sound therapy. So for sound healing, I'll get people to lay on the
Mm.
floor in a really comfy position for them. They might have blankets, sleeping bag, whatever, to make them feel really comfy. And then they just lay there and listen to the sound. So again, listening to the sounds, and there'll be different sounds at different frequencies. And that helps put you into that relaxed state once again. And then that's when you can really calm the mind and the body starts to heal itself. So I think those are 3 of my favorites because they're accessible for most people. One of them will appeal more to each individual than another, but they're a way into relaxation, where people can just relax. And often people will say to me, oh, I can't do yoga because when I was doing this, all I was thinking about was that. And I say to them, right, okay. So instead of letting your mind wander, bring it
Mm,
back. What are
mm,
you doing with your body at that time? How is your body aligned?
mm.
How are you breathing? Are you aligning your breath with your movement? And there's nowhere for the mind to go when you're fully in the moment. But being fully in the moment is hard sometimes in modern life.
It sounds like the mind might be one of our biggest barriers. I would think so. I mean, are there any really big barriers that you see with, because you've seen people stuck, lost, disconnected, and what would you say some of the biggest barriers are that hold people back?
The mind is one of our most powerful tools. The
Yeah.
power of the mind is phenomenal, but yeah, it can equally, as much as it can be one of our most powerful tools for taking us forward, it can also be a powerful tool in holding us back. And that couples up with some of the expectations that we place on ourselves that are unreasonable, the expectations that society places on us, or that we feel society might be placing on us.
Mm.
Some of the traditions, what will your family think? What does your family expect from you? You know, all of those
Oh,
things, extra pressures that we put on ourselves. Keeping up with material wants, people place um, success on what they own sometimes, and then being able to achieve having that house, that car, that holiday,
oh,
whatever it is for you, people, that can be a barrier. Yeah, feeling trapped and trying to live someone else's dreams for your life. If you're not, sometimes people are so focused on living other people's dreams, they don't even realize they're
oh,
doing it. And then they don't know what their dreams actually are. And it isn't
oh,
until years down the line sometimes people say, I've been living his life, or I've been living her life. I've been doing what my mum wanted, or and and now she's gone and I don't know what I want. And that's really sad because we've all got the choice, and stepping outside of those expectations that we put on ourselves or that we feel are put on us is it's important. It's really important to be able to do that. So I think one of the biggest things is being able to identify what brings you joy. Some people don't know what brings them
oh,
joy, and to be
yeah.
able to know what it is that brings you joy, and then to make time for it. Um, and when we feel that joy, it brings us back to a state of peace in itself. We're feeling happy doing whatever it is that brings us joy. We're joyful while we're doing it. And that helps us to think clearly, and it gives us the time to do it. So we've set aside some time to do something we love, and it can be so therapeutic. But making time can be the hard thing, can't it? Stepping back and really reflecting on things. That can be the hardest thing, prioritizing ourselves.
Oh, that is so important. And I hear you say often is that it's just finding something that brings you back to center. And, it's sometimes because my life is really crazy, it's sitting down and putting a puzzle together or uh, painting or drawing because I love doing those kinds of things or getting out in nature and doing my photography that I love. It's really important that we have to do those things in the crazy. Now, in your view, what does it really mean to heal the whole self? And do you think that we ever can really reach that?
I think it's an ongoing process. I think we can heal the whole self, but it's not a do it once, done forever.
Right.
And I think the whole healing process happens. I often describe it as like peeling an onion. So you peel away a layer of healing and you deal with it and you feel good. And then life carries on, and then something else happens and it triggers a memory or an emotion or this a situation that's got out of hand, or and then you peel away that layer and you heal it and you throw it away and life moves on. And it's a constant journey, but as we go through that journey, if we are taking the time to understand ourselves, to learn about ourselves, to figure out what brings us back to our center, to understand what brings us joy, to learn from our mistakes, then as we go through life, peeling those layers and dealing with them gets easier each time. Or sometimes there'll be big challenges that crop up that we hadn't seen coming, but life, it is a journey, and that healing is constant, but we can only learn from each experience, and hopefully as we get older it gets easier. That's what I hope anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is a daily thing. Are there daily rituals that you do every single day or that people can just do sitting at their desk? Now, I'm thinking probably breath work.
Mm.
But that are people just like, wait a second, I really need to do this right now. And what could they do in order to stay grounded and connected?
So breath work is one. Gratitude, 3 things I'm grateful for this minute, go.
Gratitude.
And another one that I don't use this, but it has been recommended to me in the past. And I know for some of my clients, this works really well. So in the moment, 5 things that you can, 1, see, 2, hear, 3,
Yes,
touch, 4, feel, using each of the 5 senses.
I've
That
heard of
and that
this.
brings you right back to,
Yes. Have you
yeah.
done it? Did you say
I
you?
have tried it, and it didn't, in the moment that I tried it, the time that I tried it, it didn't work for me. Um, for me, it's more the breath work and the gratitude. But I have worked with clients for who it really works and they use it all the time. And I think that's the other thing. We have to try these different things to figure out what does work. And
Mm-hmm.
also, sometimes something that works at one time won't work in another situation. So I know, like, sometimes I love having reflexology done on me. I absolutely love it. But other times I want Reiki done on me, and other times I might use acupuncture. And so I know that they all work, but I know that over the years, the more that I use them, I know which scenario they'll work in. And it's only
Mm-hmm.
through trial and error that we can do that. Um, and the same with some of these techniques as well. Like sometimes it might be gratitude, and that brings you back to the moment. And yeah, things aren't all bad because I'm grateful for this, this, and this. And then
Yeah.
other times it might be a few deep breaths, and yeah, having a toolbox that you learn about and develop over time.
Yep. I talk about toolboxes all the time. And sometimes it's just having something to help us reset in the moment, and that is so important. That's so much of what you're talking about here. With your experience across government, care, education, and healing, what have you learned about people in all of these different spaces? And what do you believe stays constant in our human need for connection and transformation?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I've noticed over the years amongst humanity, and this is largely down to media and sort of societal expectations. I've noticed there's been an increase more and more in the need for instant gratification. Like
Oh,
people are looking for things instantly now. They can't wait for anything. And not only do they want instant gratification, they want validation. Social media. How many likes did I get? Who's watched it? How many
yeah.
followers have I got? And material success and followers and those kind of
Oh,
things have become like the markers of doing well. And actually, they're not the markers of doing well. Who cares how many followers anybody's got? It doesn't mean anything.
mhm.
Social media and technology have had a massive impact on those changes. And as we live more and more in the virtual world,
Mm,
social connections have changed. Loneliness and a lack of community, they've got a big effect on our mental health. And COVID really exemplified that more than
yeah.
anything. And that lack of community and an increase in selfishness in some ways can leave a real emptiness in our lives. So one of yeah, working in the gym, we often do like we ask some of our clients a set of questions which is designed to establish their an understanding of their mental health in that moment. It is very subjective. So it just gives us a snapshot of sort of how they're feeling at that time. But one of the questions that we ask is, how often have you been feeling close to other people? And I can have clients who talk to me fondly about their family all the way through their gym sessions, and they'll tell me about their children or their partner or mum, dad, whoever. And then I ask that question and they'll say, oh, rarely or never.
Mm.
And I would say that more people say to me that they feel close to other people rarely than any other answer. And that really speaks to me, because we are supposed to be more connected than ever before. Social media means, like, I know when I lived in China, I could FaceTime my parents back home and keep in touch with them every week, and some of my friends back home. So really, I was connected. I was still connected, and we are more connected than ever before, but yet we feel more lonely than ever before. We're becoming more and more distant from each other. So I don't know whether that's a lack of empathy, whether it's feeling so overwhelmed with our own issues and our own lives that we can't then step outside that and take on board other people's problems, or I don't know what it is. But I do know that we have a need to be understood and valued. Um, and I think all of this is made worse when somebody doesn't understand themselves as an individual, and they don't realize that they don't understand themselves.
Mm.
So they might have unresolved trauma, they might be living somebody else's expectations of them, but taking the time to have that self-understanding and that security in who we are as an individual is so important in then being able to connect with other people and to be there for other people. We don't have to solve other people's problems, but just knowing that there's someone to listen it can make a massive difference. But to do this requires us to step outside of that fear that's holding us back. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned.
You said so much, and it was so beautifully said. I really thank you so much for being on. What a journey you have had, Zoe. You have helped us understand a world. And right now, with what you just said, you really had such an insight on on people and how we operate. And I don't know, I've often thought about what you said about we're so disconnected, but yet we're supposed to be connected, and we are more connected than ever, but we feel more lonely than ever. And honestly, we used to be, we used to allow ourselves to we didn't have phones, we didn't have those devices to be in the room. So many more people nowadays have their phones and their devices, and even though we're talking to each other, we're looking at our phones and we're doing something else, and we're doing so many things at the same time that we're not ever really where we are.
Yes.
And I think that it's really unfortunate because we can just hit a button and we're across the world and we're talking to somebody like we are now.
Yeah.
But in reality, unfortunately, I think that we're not as much with the people that are with us in our own families and in our own circles and our own towns than we used to be. And we're just so much more busy and we're seeking for so many different things. When I look at what my childhood was versus what my kids' childhood is now, I mean, I almost feel really bad for them because it's getting them to put those devices down and be able to look and sit at a dinner table and to feel more connected than we ever, that we haven't felt in for, I think, a decade. And it's getting worse as the decades go, unfortunately. And the more that AI and the more that the internet has evolved into our world, I think that we're getting more and more distant from what we used to be and have really personal, heartfelt conversations. And I think what you're doing with all these different modalities is you're bringing people back to becoming more centered. And I think
Mm.
that we're going to need those things more and more as the more these other things are integrated into our world and we feel more distanced.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Well, healing the mind, body, and soul is a series of brave steps, and you are proof of what you can do. And so many times those are steps that no one else sees when
Mm.
we're doing them. And that can make it harder because it is a choice that we have to make within ourselves on a regular basis to become our best self. And I know you've personally done a lot of work, but you have really taken this to another level. And so I so appreciate our conversation. How can people get a hold of you and learn more about how you can help them and what you are doing?
I've got a website, yourvitalitycoaching.com. And there's loads of information on there. There's lots of blogs. There's information about all of the services I offer, and how they might work for different people in different scenarios. So there's loads of stuff on there that people can have a look at. And
Okay.
if they fancy getting in touch, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and there's a
Oh,
link to my emails on the website. So yeah, definitely have a look, get in touch, and be really good to chat.
so if people aren't in the UK, I mean, can they still reach out and ask for
Absolutely.
help? And how can you do that?
I do a lot of work over Zoom. Zoom's been an amazing tool, hasn't it? It's
Yes,
definitely made the world smaller over
yes,
the last 20
absolutely.
years or so.
So
So
it
I do,
doesn't matter if they're
no, it
not in
doesn't
the
matter.
UK, they can still contact you and ask for help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing for these types of situations. And now we can just, like I said, we can just click a button and there you are. And we can say, Zoe, I really need you. Can you teach some of these like yoga and Reiki and different things, even from across the pond?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm just in the process of setting up an online platform, because what I'd
Oh,
love to be able to do, and it's something that I actually did when I came back to the UK first after COVID. I used to teach exercise classes online, and I used to deliver them through a Facebook group, and I had a group of ladies, it was all ladies who used to come to the classes,
hmm.
and it changed it changed our lives as a group. I put myself in there as well because um we built a community, and do you know what? Over the last couple of months, I've been downloading those videos off that platform, off Facebook, to put up onto my online platform and to grow from there. And looking back at the comments on all of the videos and looking back at the videos, it's really made me realize what a community we built and how supportive
Hmm.
everyone was of each other. And then looking at where the ladies went, when I stopped doing those classes and life changed, we all got on with other things. And one of those ladies has recently been to Spain to compete in a high rocks competition. And so,
Oh,
they carried on. Everybody's carried
yeah.
on their journeys. And so, yeah, I'm in the process now of setting up an online platform to take my classes back online, and that will be open right around the world. The internet is our world wide web, so I'm hoping to build a community online and make it international. That would be amazing. Um, so yeah, that'll be one way.
Okay. Well, for anybody that's listening, I mean, share it, get the word out there, and you can go to her website and you can absolutely check her out and contact her. That would be amazing. Now, as we always say at Real Talk with Tina and Ann, there is purpose in the pain and there is hope in the journey. Every step we take is a stepping stone to where we are going. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Keep
you.
yeah, keep growing, keep pushing, pause when you need to, and always remember that you can give yourself permission to pivot and start again. You've been a great example for that. So please share this episode with someone. Let people know about Zoe Smith and your vitality coaching. As usual, we will see you next time.